What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the best item in each category of items and the best setup for each item. This video is going to be short and sweet and to the point. There's so many different items in DBD, and then there's so many different add-ons for items in DBD. So this is going to be the simple video, so that way it takes out the guesswork. And the best part about all of this is that the items in DBD and the add-ons really never change, and a lot of the stuff has been true for years. So this is literally the only video you need to watch regarding items to know what the best setup for each item is if you decide to carry an item with you. So we'll just start from the left, and we will start with the best map. The best map is actually just the rainbow map. 20 seconds of use will automatically track 3 items, and then whenever you walk by objectives in the game within an 8-meter range, you will be able to reveal those objectives to you. So you'll be able to see things like the hatch, you'll be able to see things like the gens, killer's belongings, so like traps and stuff from the trapper, I believe, and even the exit gates in the end game. So best add-ons for this map would definitely be the odd stamp, which will increase the tracking ability of your map by 12 meters. So it has to 8 by default. So this gives it to where when you're walking around the map, everything within 20 meters of where you're at will be tracked. So this makes it very easy to find things like totems, generators, etc. And then the next add-on I'd like to use would be the retardant jelly, which will slow down the burning rate of the map by 20%, which will give you a bit more than 20 seconds of use. So actually 20 seconds, so 20% of 20 is like 4 seconds. So this basically adds on another 4 or 5 seconds of use to your rainbow map. So you'll have a little bit more time to use it. Now, why bring a map? I would recommend a map to new players who don't really know where things are on the map. This was useful to help you find out where generators are at. You can even use the map with in combination with a perk like Detective's Hunch, which once you do a gen will reveal totems, chests, and gens within 64 meters of you. And if you have a map with you, they get tracked on the map. So the best perk to bring with a map is Detective's Hunch, but you don't really need it with the rainbow map. Maybe if you're using one of the lesser rarities like the green map, Detective's Hunch is much better to use with it, but just use the rainbow map as is. The way I like to use this is when I'm using a totem build, if I'm running boons or if I'm trying to cleanse totems, I can bring this map with me, which makes it really easy for me to find totems because I don't always know where all the totem spawns are. Even me with 1,100 hours in this game, I don't have all of the totem spawns memorized. So if you're going to bring a map, this is a setup you want to use: rainbow map, odd stamp, and retardant jelly, so you get a little bit more use out of your map. Map's very good for new players trying to track objectives, and also good for people who like to boon or interact with totems. So feel free to please use a map. Next best setup for the keys. Now keys are not really too popular in DBD, and keys don't really do much, and honestly keys are typically a waste, but the one good setup for the best key would definitely be using the ultra rare skeleton key. Now you might think ultra rare rarity is always the best in DBD, but that's not always the case. The colors are not always the same. For some of the items, like some of the items, the lesser rarity ones are actually better, and I'll explain more here coming up. But anyways, the skeleton key, this does is it gives you 30 seconds of use. Now, the skeleton's key, 30 seconds of use doesn't actually do anything for you. Like a key by itself is completely useless. So this item is completely reliant on the add-on. The only thing it does do is it gives you the ability to open up the hatch in the end game. So if you're in a 1v1 situation against the killer at the end of the game, where the hatch is closed, you can open up the key with the hatch, and that's the only time a key is typically used. So not typically worth it to use your item slot to bring something that you may get to use in the end game, but there are things you can do with the key to actually increase the odds of you getting to that kind of an end game scenario. So the add-ons for the key: Blood Amber for sure. This will make it to where when you channel your key, you'll be able to see the killer's aura, assuming they're not a stealth killer, within 32 meters of you. So this basically makes the key a bond but for the killer, so you can track the killer's movements and you can see where the killer's at. Very useful, especially on indoor maps for avoiding the killer. The only thing with the Blood Amber is that it will increase the key's usage by 100%. So instead of this 30 seconds, you'll only get 15 seconds, but it's 15 seconds of free intel on the killer, which is actually really good. And then the second best add-on to use for a key is the gold token, which will actually make it to where when you channel the key, you will see survivors' auras within 48 meters of where you're currently located. So this does turn the key into bond. So now we have what was a useless item, but has actually turned into something that gives us 15 seconds of free vision of where the killer's at and where the other survivors are at. And that's actually really good. And when you use this key sparingly at the right times, you can make it to where it's pretty easy for you to avoid the killer, especially if you bring along a perk with you like Built to Last, which is this one right here, which lets you go into a locker and reset the charges on your item and get 99% of it back. If you bring Built to Last with this key setup, you'll basically have map packs for the whole game, which means when you can always see where the killer's at, again, assuming it's not a stealth killer, you can play pretty smart to avoid the killer, and also being able to find your allies. You can see where your allies in chase at, you can go find your ally to heal, you can find someone to heal you. This is the best setup for using a key. And actually, I found a lot of times when I actually do bring a key with Built to Last, I typically do end up making it to the end game, and a lot of times I actually am the last survivor alive. And when I do get in that scenario where the hatch gets closed, I can actually use my key, go find the hatch, and open it up, and then it's literally hilarious when it happens. And you could even meme a little bit and bring a Bill's perk, Left Behind, which lets you actually see the hatch in the end game. So fun little build if you want to try it out with the key, guys, and the best setup. But anyways, these are two best add-ons to use for the key. So let's move on, next item. Now, toolboxes. It's actually not any of these purple toolboxes. The best toolbox is actually the green toolbox, which gives you 32 charges and increases the repair speed on generators by 50%, and also unlocks the ability to sabotage hooks for you. Now, with the toolbox, guys, the best add-ons to use is not the ultra item. Like, this is a one-time use to give you a little bit of progress on the gen. Actually, not that good anymore. It's okay. Nothing crazy, but I think a much better bang for your buck is actually using the wire spool to get 12 extra charges on your toolbox, with actually the scraps for 8 extra charges. So this will give you 20 extra charges on this toolbox. If you don't want to use scraps, you could also use the socket swivels for 30% extra speed. This one is also okay to use in this setup. It makes it a little bit faster, but not as many charges, and this one just gives you more charges. They both end up being kind of about the same amount of extra progress on a gen, except this lets you do the gen a little bit quicker. But this will be basically the best setup for a toolbox. So you'll have 32 plus 12, so 44 charges. And if you could go with the scraps instead, that'll be 50 charges, or you can go for speed. Either one is fine, but this lets you shave off a decent amount of time on a generator. And when you have a toolbox, you can actually sabotage hooks. So you could potentially get some sabotage rescues by carrying this toolbox in a match with you. Now, same thing with the toolbox. If you're bringing a toolbox, you definitely want to bring something like Built to Last to reuse your toolbox and get multiple charges out of it. So that way you get the most bang for your buck. So ideally, Built to Last is just your best friend when it comes to basically all the items in the game, but specifically toolboxes, and the key, in my opinion, is where Built to Last really shines. So bring the Commodities toolbox with these add-ons, and that's the best toolbox, guys. Like, don't even really worry about any of these other add-ons. And let's go on to the next item, which would be, my friends, the MedKit. So I'm gonna call the MedKits out on something. So technically, the purple MedKit is the best. It gives you 24 charges, it increases the speed you heal others by 50%, it unlocks the self-healing action, and when you heal yourself, it reduces the efficiency and the healing charges of your medkit by 33%. So basically, you can heal yourself only one time with a medkit, or if you heal someone else, you can heal them completely, and you'll have 8 charges left over. It takes 16 for a full heal. So basically, medkits are better if you use them on other players, but they're also invaluable for yourself because you can use it to self-heal, which is actually really good in DBD, as it doesn't take 2 players to heal yourself. So the best setup for medkit. Well, actually, here's what I'm going to say about medkits. The purple medkit is technically the best because it increases the speed you heal others by 50%. But guys, the only difference between the medkits, green medkit is 45%, yellow medkit is 40%, and the basic one is 35%. So the only difference between this one and the highest rarity medkit is that the highest rarity medkit will increase the healing speed of healing other people by 15%, which really isn't anything at all. So in my opinion, the brown medkit is essentially just as good as a purple medkit. Like, I wouldn't even bother wasting your very rare medkits. I would just bring a brown medkit and call it a day, because you're not going to notice too much different between just the 15%. So if you really want the best item, sure, use the Ranger medkit, but the brown is just as good as the Ranger medkit. And honestly, I think the brown is a little better because of the add-ons I'm going to discuss with you. Because for the medkit, there's 2 go-to setups I would recommend that you use. The first one is a gel dressing with bandages. So what this will do is it will give you 16 plus 8 extra charges on your medkit, which means 24 charges. And remember, for one self-heal, it will take 24 charges because you reduce the efficiency of your medkit. So if you bring this medkit setup with you, you can heal yourself 2 times, or you can heal an ally 3 times. So this is probably the ideal medkit setup I would use in general. Gel dressing plus a bandage. Actually, I'm lying, not the bandages, the self-adherent wrap, because this is exactly the same as the bandages, except it increases your healing speed by 55%. It's minuscule, but it technically is better than the bandages, but bandages are more common, so you'll probably have these. So use bandages or the self-adherent wrap, okay guys? And this is the ideal setup for a medkit, because you'll get 2 self-heals and be able to heal an ally 3 times. Now, why I said the brown medkit is better than the purple medkit is because the second setup you'd ideally want to use is probably something like this, like a bandages. Bandages with a anti-hemorrhagic syringe. So when you throw on bandages, and I'm using the bandages here because this medkit setup is a little bit more wasteful because we're using the scriptic agent. The syringe. What the anti-hemorrhagic syringe does is whenever we are healing, we can use our active ability button to use our syringe. And what the syringe does is it actually consumes the entire medkit, meaning you'll lose it after this trial, which is why I'm saying use the brown medkit over the purple medkit. Don't bring a really badass medkit with the syringe, because then you're just going to consume your really good medkit. Use it with the brown medkit because these are so common and so easy to get. There's no reason to not use it with this. So basically, if you use a brown medkit, you can heal yourself 1 time, but because you have bandages, you will still have 8 extra charges left on your medkit, which means you'll have enough charges left over to spend them to actually consume the syringe and use the syringe properly. So this is the best setup for the medkit. Either gel dressing with the self-adherent wrap or just a bandages with the syringe. Now, if you're gonna rock this setup, I highly recommend using the perk Botany. This perk will increase your healing speed on yourself and others by 50%, but it actually reduces your healing item efficiency by 20%. But this actually works out perfectly because when you're using the setup, instead of having 8 extra charges left over without Botany, you'll still have a few charges left over. It's going to be just a very small amount of charges, but that'll be just enough for you to pop your syringe to get a heal later on in the game. And the best part is because it increases your healing by 50%, you'll actually heal yourself a lot quicker. And then the rest of the game, you heal your allies 50% quicker. So this is a very good setup for this medkit. And actually, I'll talk about one final third setup for the medkit. And if you don't want to use Botany, if you want to actually get the maximum amount of heals out of a medkit, you can bring Streetwise, you can bring gel dressing. I don't like wasting my gel dressings with the syringes because when you use a syringe, you're ideally going to waste your medkit. But, I mean, I guess you would use your gel dressing anyways in that trial, so it doesn't really matter. But this would be a third ideal setup for the medkit. So the medkits actually have a little bit of variety, so we'll talk about all 3 best setups. And what this actually does is because you're using Streetwise, which reduces your item consumption rate by 25%, you can actually heal yourself 3 times total with this medkit. So this helps to counteract the negative 33% from the medkits in general. So when we have Streetwise, we will actually be able to heal ourselves twice with the gel dressings, and we'll have a little bit of charge left over to use the syringe for a 3rd heal. So this will get you the most bang for your buck. If you want to bring Streetwise with the medkit, you can actually get 3 heals out of 1 medkit, which is honestly a really, really good thing. So if you really just want to carry and want to make sure you have the most utility, highly recommend this setup. But if you're just playing like an average game, just use the wrap with a gel dressing for 2 heals. And if you want to be fancy, you can use your syringe and use some bandages, and just assume that you're gonna end up burning the medkit after 1 use. Yeah, and you can like throw something like Botany in with it. Very, very sick setup. And now the last item, guys, would be the flashlight. I'm not gonna talk about any of the fancy items that don't have add-ons, but the best flashlight obviously is gonna be the purple flashy. It gives you 12 seconds of use. Increases the brightness of your flashlight by 30%, increases the blindness by 15%, decreases your accuracy by like 20%. And then for the add-ons for the flashlight, I highly recommend going for a long battery, which will add 6 seconds of charge to your already 12 seconds amount of time, which gives you 18 seconds of flashlight use. And then after that, honestly, I like the high-end sapphire lens. Increases the range of your flashlight by 25%, increases the width of it, increases the brightness of it, and increases the blindness of it, which lets you kind of turn the flashlight. It gets a little bit of range to your flashlight, so you can get a few more flashlight saves you wouldn't normally get. But in my opinion, this is definitely the best setup for the flashlights. I don't really mess around with the odd bulbs too much. Like I said, ultra rare doesn't always make it like a really good item or the best item in DBD. But yeah, flashlights are actually pretty simple. This is it. You want to bring this with you to get some flashy saves. You could bring a perk like background player with you, which lets you run really fast for 5 seconds. after one of your allies gets picked up. So if your survivor gets downed and then they pick them up, you'll get a huge boost of speed for 5 whole seconds to get into possession for like a really good flashlight save. So this is probably the best perk to bring if you're like a flashlight saver kind of player. Highly recommend bringing background player with you. But guys, that is it for the video. Please smash that like button for the algorithm. Comment down below and let me know if you thought this was helpful. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already part of the family. Help your boy out. These are the best setups for every item in DBD. Have fun out there, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.